It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
We have our guest today is a special friend of the show. He's best known, William Gladstone, that is best known as the literary agent and the founder of Waterside Productions. Will represents luminaries such as Eckhart Tolle and Tom Hartman and Neil Donald Walsh. He's also the trustee of the International Club of Budapest, and he'll talk a little bit about that with us, and has served as the founding alumni president for School Year Abroad. As an author, William is best known for his bestseller, The 12. He's also the co-author of Tapping the Source and the co-producer of the film of the same name, and he is here today to talk to us about his new book, The Golden Motorcycle Club, co-authored with my friend Jack Canfield. William, you there?
I am here. Thanks for that introduction.
Not a bad introduction, is it?
What?
It wasn't a bad introduction.
No, it was excellent for those who don't know of my previous books and work.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about this book, and by this book I mean The Golden Motorcycle Gang, which is going to be coming out shortly.
October, I think it is.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Well, it'll be the end of October. Actually, the official date is November 11th because 11/11/11 is kind of a special day.
We'll get to the dates because this is very important. But what I think is, well, there's a line from the book that I kind of want to kick off our conversation with. This is my favorite. We by the way, had, for those of you listening, had the opportunity to read an advance copy. Both Barnett and I did. And I loved it.
That's a radio perk, folks.
It is a radio perk. We get that sometimes. All right, here's my favorite quote. Conscious evolution is most simply described as evolution by choice, not chance. That's my line to kick off the conversation. So, Bill, that's the one that grabbed me and holds my imagination. It is a very provocative statement, however, one I fully agree with. And that's what I want to talk about today. So that's the piece of this book as an evolutionary tale, one of going from where we were to this potential. And there's even dates involved, which we'll get to in a minute, which is exciting. So what inspired you? I know that you and Jack had a conversation. Let's start there, actually. How did this book, because this is a part of the book, how did this book come to be?
Tell us the story.
Well, the book grew quite organically and magically. I had dinner with Jack Canfield, probably it was close to 15 years ago, in Santa Barbara, and he told me the story of the Golden Motorcycle Gang. And I didn't think too much of it at the time, except it was a great story.
Now, this was based on a dream, though, wasn't it?
This was a dream. Well, it was really more of a vision. Jack had been asked a question when he was in graduate school, and the question was, when did you first realize you wanted to be a teacher? And it was in a classroom setting, so, it wasn't anything magical in the question. But for Jack, the answer was fairly magical. Most of the other graduate students, Jack was in his early 20s at the time, responded, oh, I remember this teacher or this book or a parent or, some incident in their life. But Jack went into a kind of trance and actually saw himself flying through space as an ephemeral being on a golden motorcycle gang with other spirit beings, if you will, and looking down and seeing a little blue planet in distress and turning to his friends and saying, guys, I think something's going on down there, and like a good Samaritan, let's go and see if we can help. And that was the story that he told me, and the inspiration for him in his actual life of deciding to become a teacher with a capital T. In other words, a teacher who was not just there in terms of classroom teaching, but in terms of teaching the higher truths that can, in fact, help people lead more productive lives. And collectively, the more people that are leading happy, healthy lives, the better chance we have of what Barbara Marx Hubbard calls conscious evolution. And the quote that you actually read to start our conversation today actually comes from Barbara. And Barbara's a key piece of the Golden Motorcycle Gang, and she's been a big influence on both Jack and I.
And she's a big part of the book.
And a big part of the book.
Well, why don't we roll back to the Golden Motorcycle Gang? That is not a metaphor. So will you unpack a little bit about that for us?
Well, the Golden Motorcycle Gang, and I would say it is and it isn't a metaphor. The reality that I believe and Jack believes, and we keep it in a novel because we don't expect everyone to share our beliefs. But our belief is that very much as Redfield described in the Celestine Prophecy, we come into planet Earth as part of a soul group with a shared mission. And Jack and I believe that we're part of, in our case, the Golden Motorcycle Gang soul group, and that we have a very specific mission to serve as catalysts to help transform and inspire others to their highest possible calling.
Beautiful.
And so you're referring to a wave, to a pod of folks who have incarnated at this time to serve and to play.
Well, and this is
To
quite
serve and to play. Well, that's what's very important. It's not a dichotomy at all between serve and play.
Same thing.
You have to be having a great time in order to really be of service to others, because part of your service is expressing joy and being in joy, because it's not going to work if it's a chore.
This is such a good point that you make,
it's a
Bill.
new paradigm, because serving from most of what Christian tradition is it has an element of suffering. So this is a different
we're
way
not
of
into the suffering.
Yeah, this is a different consciousness of how to serve.
Yeah, and my belief, and Jack's too, is that you're going to achieve much more and be of much greater service to others if you are serving in a state of joy yourself and taking care of your own needs to the fullest extent possible without, of course, overindulging and risking your health and your well-being and your sense of balance. But there is no dichotomy between having a kick-ass good time and being of service to others, and that's part of the metaphor of the Golden Motorcycle Gang. We associate motorcycle gangs with totally self-centered, hedonistic people. Well, the reality is there's less of a dichotomy between hedonism and being of service if it's properly balanced. So that's more the message we want to get across, and that this is really for everyone. This isn't for the goody-goody guys. This is for everybody. We can all work together and achieve what we want, both personally and collectively. And that's why it's evolution by choice, not chance.
Fantastic.
Love that. It's such a critically important message to model more than to talk about, or at least as much as to talk about. We hear so much about people coming from this place of really an earnest desire for things like peace in the world and goodness, but it is, of course, impossible to have peace in the world if we can't, as individuals, get through the checkout line at Ralph's peacefully.
Yeah,
absolutely. And
likewise, joy.